We exist in a purposeless, chaotic universe. So why not blast off into space, where you can get slapped by a battleship that's also a cat and fight dancing pandas and shoot your way through hordes of flying penguins, because that's what we're doing today in Parodius, a game that fully embraces the intentional irrationality of absurdism. There is no meaning, there's no purpose, there's no narrative, there's no plot, there's just a sequence of increasingly more and more absurd things that happen. And you, shooting those things until they all die. Why are we shooting them? Why are we inside a world made of cake? Why does this gunship have a face? The only answer to these questions is, why not? Shaving is boring. That's a statement that Parodius makes when you pick up this power-up. The words burst out from the front of your character, and while they're there you can use them to kill anything that they touch. It's easy to overanalyze the meaning of small things. That kind of analysis itself is kind of boring, but shaving is boring. And that's what your life is, waking up, shaving, looking for where you last left your keys so you can climb into your metal death box and crawl across the city to an austere room where you type numbers into a computer all day, only to crawl back home exhausted so you can sleep and do it all over again tomorrow. It's a life reminiscent of the myth of Sisyphus, pushing a boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down over and over again, repeating for eternity. That's absurd. And that's what Camus says in his book, The Myth of Sisyphus. We're living this absurd existence, and all the while we're here, we're crying out for meaning. What does any of this mean? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? And in return, the only answer that we get is silence. There is no meaning. And when you realize that there is no meaning, and when you embrace the absurdity of our unreasonable existence, what's left? Life. It might not have meaning, but it exists, and we exist, and our emotions exist. When we look to that existence, the question isn't why, it's why not? Why not embrace the chaos? Why not embrace the meaninglessness of life? To accept it is to conquer it. Why not enjoy what we have? The English title for Parodius was changed. It's not called Parodius, it's called Fantastic Journey. And isn't that what life is when you realise that there's no objective meaning to anything? That's what's left, a fantastic journey, here and now, in the present, not the future. Is this what the developers of Parodius intended? Is this what they were thinking when they made the game? Or am I crying too hard in search of meaning? Yes and no, maybe. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, really. It's what I choose to take from it. That's what matters. Now, am I saying that this game, Parodius, is some kind of existential masterpiece on par with the great existential explorations like Tarkovsky's Stalker or the Lego Movie? No, of course not. Parodius isn't a masterpiece. But I can still take these themes and see them reflected in the game. The game embraces absurdity. It embraces meaninglessness. It revels in it. The word Parodius itself is a portmanteau of two words, parody and Gradius. Gradius is a Konami arcade game released back in 1985. In that game you play as Vic Viper, flying through space, shooting other spaceships and strange brain aliens. Parodius is Gradius, it's the same game. It's just more ridiculous. Mechanically, it's exactly the same. The gameplay is imitated right down to the fact that the main character of Parodius is also Vic Viper. Since the game is developed by Konami, and they also developed Gradius, it's almost hard to think of it as a parody, or even a pastiche, but more like a kind of self-aware commentary where a game is willing to allow itself to be less serious than what it really is. GoldenEye on the N64 is a good example of this. It's a serious game, but if you turn on Big Head mode, it becomes less serious. Medal of Honor is a serious game, but if you use the code Haberdasher to turn on weird hats, it has your enemies wearing trucks on their heads. Why? Why not? So if you're coming to Parodius looking for meaning, you won't find it. If you're looking for seriousness, you won't find that either. Unless you're like me and you can find meaning in meaninglessness. But accept that that meaning that you find only exists inside your own head. If, however, you come to Parodius because you want a fast-paced, high-energy, arcade side-scrolling shooter, then strap in, because we have some catboats to kill. I struggled with this game starting out. There's a lot of stuff flying around the screen, it's kind of a bullet hell. It's not awful, but I'm slow and I've never had great reaction speed. You get a bunch of characters to choose from and they all control differently. Some are quicker than others and those ones will be better at dodging and weaving around everything, but they might not have a great selection of weapons compared to some of the slower characters. There are 8 characters to choose from at the start. Vic Viper, Takosuke, Twinbee, Pentaro, Hikaru, Mambo, Michael, and Koitsu. I played a few times trying to figure out different characters, and every time I died I'd restart and try a different character. I'd get a little bit better each time, except for when I played Pentaro, because Pentaro is a trash fire. Anyway, I'm between games, and I'm stopped on the character screen trying to read some of each character's abilities. And the game doesn't let you do this if you take too long to pick a character, like more than a few seconds. The game will just pick them for you. I was hovering over this character Koitsu, who I'd been avoiding because I thought he was the joke character of the game. A little stick man riding a paper aeroplane. I assumed he'd suck, and I was right, he is a joke character, but not because he sucks. Because he makes an absolute joke of the game. Koitsu gets a similar skill set to some of the other characters, a basic shot, a missile shot, and then a condom on his face. And these abilities increase in power, the spread becomes insane, and you find that you can kind of just let everything on the screen die. Koitsu's weakness is anything that comes from behind, but if you position yourself in the middle of the screen, anything in front of you is getting shredded. I didn't make much progress playing as other characters, but as soon as I picked Koitsu, I steamrolled the game. Well, most of it anyway. It doesn't make a complete mockery of the game because some parts of the game are designed to just outright kill you, unless you find the one tiny pocket of pixels where you can move to survive. The bosses are mostly responsible for this. If you get lucky and you find that sweet spot, sometimes you can just sit completely still. Hold down the fire button and nothing will touch you. It makes the game easier, but it's still a challenging game. This kind of bullet hell chaos is just how it was balanced, and as many projectiles as Koitsu belches out onto the screen, you'll end up facing the same kind of bullet hell in return. Later stages of the game are hard. The game is really hard. But if you can keep track of what's happening on the screen, I mean, it looks cool. I'd actually played other similar games like this before. I remember playing R-Type on the PS1, and that's fine. But Parodius does the work of making itself stand out with a unique style. Although the soundtrack is only okay, it doesn't particularly stand out there. But the character design is unique and interesting, and every character plays differently, and that helps give them all their own unique sense of identity. I feel like the character design in this game was probably approached in a similar way to the way developers would approach characters in a fighting game, giving every character a unique moveset and allowing players to gravitate to the ones that they resonate with aesthetically, but also whose movesets they feel most comfortable using. I'm sure if you got a group of friends together to all play the game, each of the characters would end up being someone's favourite, except for Pentaro, because Pentaro is trash fire. And now, just to pull the rug out from underneath everybody's expectations, this video becomes a tier list video because it's my video and why not? The tier list is Koitsu, Takasuke, Mambo, Michael, Vic Viper, Twinbee, Hikaru and Pentaro, in that order. Pentaro's last because Pentaro is a trash fire. And if you think I'm being unfair to Pentaro and that I'm building up maybe to some kind of twist where, in order to make sure that my tier list is fair, I play through the game one more time as Pentaro and discover that actually Pentaro is the best character, well, that's not going to happen because Pentaro is a trash fire. But thankfully Parodius isn't. The game was enjoyable. It's a love letter to itself. It's absurd, it's colourful, it's self-aware and self-referential, it's challenging, it's frustrating, and it's joyful. For me, it sneaks in beneath Ridge Racer, in second place out of the games that I've played so far in this series. And if you're watching this video and you made it all the way through to the end, then this is a series. I'm playing through every PS1 game, and if you haven't seen the other videos, then please check them out. I have a very long video in the process about King's Field. That game is grueling. I've put more than 20 hours into it so far and I don't think I'm anywhere near the end, so that one's taking a lot to get through. But that should be coming up in the future alongside some of the other PS1 launch titles. For today I don't really have a lot more to say about Parodius. And that's fine because I think we're going to be seeing more Parodius in the future. Hope to see you then.